Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dog Speak with myself and Patricia McGrady. Today we have Shay Kelly with us, and today we'll be talking to us in a little while about aversives and what do we think of aversives. Well, I can tell you as the discussion unfolds what I think. But before that, let's just tell you a little bit about Shay. If you're not familiar with Shay Kelly, please get to know who this guy is. Jay Kelly has a BSc in Canine Behavior Management and a Master's in Animal Training and Behavior. He is the author of Canine Enrichment, the book your dog needs you to read, and the Dog and Training Behavior, a guide for everyone. He's also the author of a puppy nurture, raising your puppy with love. He has particular interest in enrichment and olfaction. Shay has previously worked in kennels and has experience working in the assistance dog world. His focus is now on advocating for dog welfare. Welcome to Dog Speak, Shay. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm good, thank you.
That's good. That's great, great, great. Aversive. What does that mean to you, Shay? The word aversive.
Aversive in itself, an aversive is really anything that's uncomfortable or the dog doesn't like. Where people get a little bit mixed up, and it's only a technicality, but where people get a little bit mixed up is they use aversive as instead of punishment. So an aversive isn't necessarily punishing behavior. Some dogs will still do a behavior even though they find something slightly uncomfortable. So it'd be an aversive without being a punishment. But an aversive really is anything that the dog doesn't find pleasant, would rather avoid, but they might not avoid it. If they do avoid doing a behavior because of an aversive, then it becomes a punisher. It's punishing the behavior that they're avoiding.
I'm glad that you've cleared that one up because would you agree or disagree that a lot of people then would use aversives unintentionally?
Yeah, absolutely. And to some extent, aversives are a part of life, and that's where it goes wrong. That's where we get mixed up as well, because there are obviously plenty of aversives in life. The reason we get out of bed in the morning is probably due to some aversives. The fact that if we don't go to work, we won't get paid. Um, so aversives are everywhere, but that just because they're part of nature, if you like, or part of the universe, isn't automatically a reason to use them in modifying behavior or um, or training behavior. For that, we want to be encouraging and motivating animals and even humans rather than using aversives. So just because they exist isn't in itself an excuse to use them, which is often the argument that we get. I mean, lots of things exist. That doesn't mean we're going to use them. Cancers exist. That doesn't mean we would want to use them for anything in particular. We want to avoid them.
I totally agree with you, and I also agree with you in the word aversive is used and mooted around so openly when in a lot of instances it's the word punishment that really gets me. Punishment, where we're seeing certain realms, trainers, owners are using punishment of a way of stopping a behaviour because they don't like the behaviour. So, with it now being 2024, and a man with your experience, your knowledge, would you say the dogs are more dogs are getting more punished in today's society than before?
I think they probably are, and that's really, I probably wouldn't have said that a few years ago when I was doing my university degrees, because you live in that world where you're not seeing so much of it. You're seeing the positive side of it. You're seeing people, you're mixing with people who are doing the science and studying more advanced methods. So so a few years ago, I'd probably said, no, it's changing. And by the time I leave this world, probably we won't use punishment-based methods. But no, I'm not so sure. I think we are. We have seen, I think we've seen a lot more punishment in recent years. And it is difficult to judge because when you start looking on social media and things, that the algorithms tend to show you more of whatever you're looking at, even if you're just looking out of a research point of view, not because you want to do it, but you're looking at the horrendous methods that some people are using. You get targeted by the social media, and you see more of it. So it is a little bit hard to judge, but I've seen other people say it as well, in that you get in high profile people using aversives and punishers, and there's different grades of punisher. There's very mild things that wouldn't be classed as abusive, which is like saying no to a dog. And I mean, some people don't want to do that, and it's not necessarily beneficial, but at the same time, it's not you wouldn't call it abusive. It's not like using a shock collar or something like that. So you're getting a lot of people that I don't think have really got the training skills or the training knowledge, um, but they've found a quick and, for them, easy way of changing or modifying a dog's behaviour, especially problematic behaviour, and that's with very harsh punishers and aversives, and that's what they're promoting, and some of them are very, very good at promoting it, far, far better than I am at promoting themselves than I ever would be. Their confidence is beyond belief. They look like they could go on TV and do what they're so ultra confident. But in that comes a risk that you're not really examining your own beliefs and what you do each day, because you're so overconfident. And so these people that are really, some of them are really good at social media as well and promoting themselves, and they've just gone, from nobody's, in the dog world to being out there in everybody's homes through social media, and that is then promoting other people the idea of thinking, oh yeah, I can do dog training. It's, all you've got to do is that. And the whole system that I'm seeing, it's not even a mix. They're saying balanced training, but what I'm seeing is people just massively overusing. Well, any use of a shock collar is overuse, but they're just using it to solve every problem going, and prong collars as well as shock collars. And that's just being promoted to everyone else. So other people are picking up on the idea of, oh, some of them are probably not even into dogs that much, but it's the social media side of it, and they see an in there as a way of getting known and getting attention, and making some money, because you can make money out of social media as well if you're very good at it. I've never made anything, but some of them are, millions of followers, hundreds of thousands of followers on their social media streams, all based on really nothing short of total dominance of an animal, which is easy. Anyone can totally dominate an animal.
I totally
Well,
agree with you.
so I just picking up on what you said, quick and easy, and I think that appeals to people, doesn't it? Having quick, easy solutions, and proper dog training takes time, and it can look really, really boring.
Yeah,
But we all want fast and easy, don't we, in life nowadays?
well, that's one of the arguments I saw recently, actually. It's only in the last week or two, when people was arguing about the latest study that's been out, is the argument was that even if you can do it positively, with nice methods, positive reinforcement, that it's not really what the general public want. The general public, this was an aversive trainer's argument. It was saying that the general public want, a quick result.
Mm.
I'm not so sure that is true, in that if that's what we stick to, if that's the first thing we do, if that's what people think you're supposed to do, then that's what they're going to expect. So it takes social change. Um, people are, the general public might expect that because that is what traditionally has been on offer. We are a very, as a species, we use punishment with each other quite a lot. So maybe that's just what they expect. But, in social change, you start to see other ways of doing things. And so expectations change. I mean, when I was a child, most parents smacked their children. It was absolutely normal, commonplace. Today, I maybe I just don't know those people, but I don't know anybody who hits their children. Not a single person. So I think it just takes time. So people today don't go, oh yeah, well it's quicker, it's easier if I just hit them. It would be ludicrous now.
It certainly would, because I can tell you for a fact I know exactly what you're talking about. When my mum gave me that look, it was followed by a left hook.
Shouldn't be laughing at that, but yeah.
And when I looked going from the 70s to where we are now, it does take social change. Yeah.
The other thing, the big component that's missing, of course, is that they're only considering the one behavior in isolation, whatever it is that you don't want your dog to do. And it's usually about not wanting them to do something rather than wanting them to do something. It's something's become a problematic behavior, and it's usually a problem for the human rather than the dog. But that's all they're looking at. They're just, like it was a piece of wood. They don't want to be over there. They want it to be over here, and they don't care how it gets there. But the journey is a big part of looking after dogs and caring for dogs and training dogs. That's what we need. We need to care about the journey, how we get there. It's not just about the final result. What would be the point in that? We might as well all die today if it's only about the final result, because that's where we're all going. We want to enjoy the journey. We want to enjoy being alive. And that's the same as why do you get a dog? To enjoy that journey and to build that relationship. And what's missing is they don't have, when you think of training in that way, they don't have an insight or awareness of all the other issues that might be going on with the dog, or what even has caused the dog to behave in that way that they're trying to stop. So they're not addressing the root cause of the behavior. They just totally focused on, no, I don't want it to happen.
Some may argue.
Quite often, sorry, Colin, but quite often, a lot of these behaviors come from anxiety and fear in dogs, and that's why they've got a problem in the first place, because they've got some sort of anxiety about a certain situation, whatever it is. And if we're just going to go to punitive methods, we don't even consider that. We don't even think about it in the slightest. We just go, no, bash, want it to stop. And even just this week, I've seen so many videos of training videos that people send me of aversive trainers. And they're just like the people we said, they've just started up because they thought, oh yeah, I can do that. And they've got a dog that's got behavior problems. They've got anxiety. They're not just acting up. They're not just being bad dogs. They've got serious problems in being uncomfortable for whatever reason in an environment. And what do? Put a shock collar on them or a prong collar so that they don't do the problem behavior, which is being caused by their anxiety. And it's just, when you think of it like that, I can understand why people do it, but it's just ludicrous when you consider this is a dog with a problem, and all we're going to do is hurt them or cause more anxiety. And the lack of foresight is just. I saw one trainer in America and it's not the first, it's second one I've seen in the same week, where they've got a dog on a shock collar in a house. Both board and train people, so they've brought the dog to their house, and the dog is anxious. It's anxious coming into that house, and then they've got slippery floors. So they're using not only are they using a shock collar on a dog in a new environment where they're even more anxious, but they're on slippery floors as well. So now they're sliding all over the place in their panic. Two different people doing it. It's just, and it just shows you the absolute lack of knowledge or foresight.
Mm.
And they're not trying to be nasty, bad people. They're just not giving any foresight at all to the dog's problems. They just, no, I want this to stop. And what you're likely to what a really good likelihood is that you're now going to teach the dog to be very uncomfortable in that situation or on that type of floor, which happens really, really easily. You, apart from the chance of causing injury to that dog, but they're certainly not in a learning state to become, to become all right with that environment. How's that ever possibly going to happen? You just put them on a slidey, slippery, shiny floor and shocked them for the first time. I don't even know what's going through people's heads sometimes. It's just like they're not thinking at all. And then people are turning around arguing for these shock collars and all the rest of it, as if, oh no, it's just saving people's lives, saving dogs' lives, and you lot would go and have them euthanized instead. It's just a ludicrous argument when generally people aren't using them to save a life. They're using them. Really, the only word is abuse, because even they might not be intending to be abusive, but that doesn't stop it being abuse.
That is can't find the words because the way I see it is dogs have feelings. So if I'm not thinking about the individual dog, then and I put a prong collar or a shock collar or even physically trying to stop the behaviour without a tool, then I must be, in my eyes, a very horrid person for not even taking into consideration the feeling of this dog. It's going to get hurt if I do these things. But for me, there is only one way to train, one way to work with dogs, and it's got to be humanely. And understanding that this dog does have emotions, does have feelings, and if the behavior it's just displayed is not acceptable, then it's for me to be able to say to this dog, look, let's do it this way instead. Yeah. Here's an idea. How about if I introduce something into the environment that's going to get you a little bit more focused and I can teach you, we can work together here. And instead of the jumpy uppy, you keep four pawsy on the floorsy. I mean, sickens me when I read these things.
Yeah,
It does sicken me.
it's even
I
more
haven't been.
important with. Sorry, Colin. It's even
That's
more
okay.
important with companion animals, because they've got absolutely no choice. In the wild, when if you study animal behavior, they've all got a choice to a certain degree in that they can move away from the thing that's causing them harm. When you're, it'd be like being held captive and someone torturing you, where in that you've got no escape. You absolutely got no power to do anything about it. We've created dogs that are totally dependent on us. They're stuck with us. They can't go anywhere else. They don't choose who they live with. It's total chance on their part of who they get to go and live with. And then we do things that are unpleasant that they can't escape from at all. So we have to be more the other way, if anything, than what would occur in nature, because this animal is living, they're domesticated, but really, no animal lives so dependent on another species like that with no escape. No, you can't move away. Aversives and punishers in nature are all based on the fact that you can escape from it, you can move away, and it's choice. But not with a companion animal. What choice have they got? Absolutely zero choice in it. I often look at my dog and look at my dogs and think, he's got. It's good really, but he's got absolutely no clue whatsoever that other dogs have this life where nobody hurts them. And isn't that? It's just. I mean, it's obvious, but it's bonkers at the same time to think how random it is for the dog who they end up with.
I couldn't put that any better myself because I often sometimes sit and look at either of mine and think, if only you knew, if only you could understand the human language to the extent I do, and know what's going on out in the world. You could watch the news or get onto Facebook and see all the bad things that are happening to other dogs. And I'm going to say it to Zara, and then you'll know, Zara, you don't need to keep whining for food. Because you're going to get it. Whereas some dogs are not getting even food, and the way they are treated is really, really, really barbaric. Which then sort of like brings me on to, going to recent events where we are seeing studies with trainers that somehow believe that if we use a shock collar or a prong collar, it is far better than using humane methods. I can't get my head around that one.
But I think it's easy to, as a human, we have great imaginations, and it's easy to convince yourself of all sorts of things that might not be true. I mean, just look at all the religions there are in the world. Each religious person, and that's not true, insult anyone who's got a religious belief, but there's thousands and thousands of different religions and different gods according to people, and each of them are absolutely certain that their religion is the religion or the best religion, or and it just so happens to be the religion you're born into. Usually, in most 95% of cases, people never change. A bit like your football team in that respect. So it's we can convince ourselves of all sorts of things. It's why we like stories. And so it's quite easy to convince yourself of that as well. I mean, I almost give up on humanity when and this isn't really a political point, because I don't, I'm not into American politics. I don't follow who's in what party, or but the things that Donald Trump said before he was ever elected the first time, and then to think, around 50% of a country the size of America are willing to go out and vote for him after some of the things that he says, and you just think, what hope have you got of changing people's minds of how they treat animals if if they're voting someone, the most powerful person on earth, who behaves as he does? And that's nothing to do with politics. It's just the way he speaks to people and puts, journalists down, and, not a way that any politician has ever behaved in my lifetime until now.
So the study by that Ivan was involved in, I really enjoyed watching your video review of it. I was going to print it out and go for it myself and try and make sense of it, but you did the job for me, did a fantastic job. So thank you for doing that. I'm really curious to know, would you support that study being reproduced, but if it was done under better conditions, and if it was done in a much fairer way as per the things that you flagged? Do you think
No,
that would be worth doing or not?
no, and that's I personally wouldn't, and that doesn't mean I'm saying that those studies should never be done. It's not for me to decide, but my personal beliefs is that we shouldn't be still arguing about whether a, a shock collar is going to be better in some way than using positive reinforcement in this day and age. I just don't think it sends the right signal for how we should be treating companion animals. It's so I would be against it on that grounds. And I'm not alone in that. It's there's not many ethics committees that would still approve such a study. So I don't know how it gets through there. I don't know much about them, but I know where I went to, where I studied, you wouldn't get anything even close to that through an ethics board. They wouldn't even consider it. It wouldn't even be a discussion, really. It'd just be, no, we don't support that sort of thing. And it's like I say, it's the standard that you're setting. You're saying this is okay to hurt an animal to get what you want. And it's a very arrogant position for humans to take. I think I don't see why we think it's all right just to, they don't have any say in it. They didn't agree to be part of it.
Yeah.
So, but having said that, if you're going to do the study, it needs to be good. I wouldn't be heavily criticizing them just for the fact that they did it. I'd say I don't agree with doing it, but I wouldn't be heavy. My heavy criticism, it really comes from the way it's been done. Is, to my mind, I can't even think of the words, because it's so shocking and so disappointing and so just surprising that it ever happened. I just can't see any logical reasons for it. It's easy for people to make excuses, but I don't see any reasons at all for how that study went ahead. And the main argument I'm seeing them put out at the moment is, well, there's worse studies. That's not much of an argument to say that some other studies have got problems and they're worse. To just the fact that, the Clive Wynne was in an interview with Ivan. I don't know what year it was, but it was sometime in the previous couple of years before the study. And Ivan promises to get the money for him to do such a study. So there's no secret to where the money came from. It was through Ivan. It was all supported and pushed by Ivan. Then Ivan ends up being one of the main trainers. None of it seems to make logical sense. Whatever side of the fence you're on, whatever belief your dog training is, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Pushing that agenda that has got all the control there, and none of it seems to have been done very well at all. If I'd have put that in at my university as my research project, I would have failed, because it makes no sense. There is no comparison of dog training in that study, which is the main thing. You can criticize everything else as much as you like, but the main point of looking at comparing the different training methods did not happen. There was no training of positive reinforcement, and the references that suggested that's how positive reinforcement is trained for an emergency stop are farcical. They're not academic. They just went to magazines and online magazines, and the online magazines they went to didn't say what they were saying they said. They was to do with getting a dog to chase you and using chase, so making really, really increasing the positive reinforcer by making it fun for the dog to do. That's totally the opposite to what they did in the study. The dog was running the opposite way, chasing something else in the study. Just no degree of positive reinforcement training happened in that study. So how can it be called a comparison? That's just the biggest failure you can have in a study, that it doesn't do in any way, shape or form what they're claiming it does. And then on top of that, the researchers really didn't go overboard on their claims of positive reinforcement, of positive punishment with the shock collar. They said, in this particular type of situation with these expert trainers, then this could be, but with positive reinforcement, done slower or all the rest of it, you could get different results. And, it wasn't as definitive as you would think. But the problem is the people they got to do it and the people who are promoting it are just looking at the headline, really, and that's what gets put out and promoted. So it's totally misleading, and that conclusion shouldn't have been arrived at in the first place, because the study didn't compare at all. So it's just one problem on top of another problem on top of another problem for the study.
I know that before the study came out, Ivan was really proud of it, because he said so in his interview that he did with Josie. and Kamal. Does anyone know how he's responded to what you've said? I just wonder what his arguments would be if he's heard your analysis of the study. Does anyone know?
Well, there's been lots of analysis of the study, as you've probably noticed.
Yeah, but your one was pretty good.
I've seen better ones than mine. Where
Have
they were
you?
more thorough. I haven't got the names just now, but
Okay.
where they were even more thorough and proper academic reviews of it. And I know someone is planning to send one to the journal themselves. But it seems to be that any criticism is not being looked at well, and they're basically saying that the positive reinforcement people are just like not wanting to accept it. Now they've got real science and just
Right.
there's no contrition whatsoever. There's no give. There's no anything. I have heard rumors that he wants to do another study, but I don't know how accurate that is.
Mm.
But they're 100%. They're so over the top about even if it was all done right, which in no way, shape, or form it was. But even if it was all right, their claims about it are still ridiculously exaggerated, which happens, in studies. That's not just them. It happens in studies all the time. People misrepresent them, and it is being totally misrepresented. But no, I don't think they've got any. I don't think they've got any intentions of taking any criticism on board whatsoever.
Which is quite sad, really, because for many it feels like they have proven something. They've proved that using the methods they use is the right way to go. But then when I, looked at how you broke it down and quite a few others since then, it's couldn't have passed. It shouldn't even be called a study. I'm not going to say on air what it should have been called, but it should never, ever have got the attention from Mr. Clive Wynne in the first place. It should never have ever come to the position where we are discussing this, because I think you said earlier on, it's painful, it's punishment, it's awful, it's barbaric to even think about doing a study or any form of training using those kind of methods. So 2024, and we're still no further on in actually advocating for animal welfare. I'm going to go the extra one, not just for dogs, but for animals, where they can live their lives fear free. For me, it's quite sad.
Even from a study point of view, that paper will now be referenced everywhere else as if it's factual, when it's absolute, it's farcical. There's no polite way to talk about that paper, and it's not. This isn't just positive reinforcement people attacking what they don't like. This is much bigger than that. This isn't just a reaction from positive reinforcement dog trainers. I think there'll be a few academics very surprised that study has Clive's name on it. Just because of the standard of it, the amount of problems that are in it, and the fact that it doesn't do what it says it does in any way, shape, or form. To me, I think they was duped a little bit. Is my feeling, but that's just a personal feeling. I can't know. I think they was led down. I think they took too much advice from the trainers in the study, who of course were positive reinforcement, positive punishment advocates, big time, especially for harsh things like shock collars and prong collars. And I think they was misled a little bit in that, but they're still got to take the responsibility for it. You're responsible for the study you put out there.
Which is in itself, I'll use that word again, sad, very sad. So, if how do we move forward do you believe that we should be having forums where we got both sides of the argument sitting down, talking to each other, or I mean, my opinion on that, it's a waste of time. Yeah. But there are some trainers out there that want these forums to be put together.
No,
I watched one. Sorry, go on.
absolutely not, because it comes down to my answer on the whether I would have agreed with the study if it was done properly or not. In that you're just encouraging, you're accepting, really, that is a reasonable way to treat an animal in your care, a companion animal, and that is a red line for me. You know, I cannot get into a situation where I'm going to sit down and say, yeah, it's just a difference of opinion. It's, that's what they try and put across, but it's nothing to do with that. It's that what you find acceptable and whether you're willing to normalize the ill treatment of animals, which of course they don't call it ill treatment of animals, but whether, I'm not willing to normalize shocking dogs as a choice any more than I would do for shocking children. Just because something might work for that limited purpose and forget everything else that might happen from that is no argument for using something. You look at how many human coercive relationships there are. It's just because you can get someone to do something by threatening them isn't an argument for doing it, is it? I can get someone to wash up for me by holding a gun to their head. It's in itself, that is a bonkers, ridiculous argument. It has to have more merits than just you can make somebody do something.
Fortunately, we are living in a world where man likes to dominate, whether that's another man or an animal. I don't have an answer as to how we move forward. Um, I've got to be honest, I'm sort of lost in that area as to where and how we do move forward. I think this study is going to do more harm to the industry than good.
I mean, I don't see anything good about the discussions that have been taking place between aversive and positive reinforcement trainers at all, really. I don't see them as genuine, I think, is the problem. It's not just that I wouldn't want to be involved, it's that they just don't seem very genuine. The aversive trainers I've seen in them have all been, I can't think of any who's not. Every one of them that I've seen and looked at, I haven't known them all, but I've had a look at their stuff, have all been heavy promoters of using force and shock collars. And it's not just that they happen to use them, they're heavy promoters of that. They're going around encouraging other people to do that. It's not just that they want them for particular skillful use in an emergency situation or in a situation where you've got no choice. They're heavily promoting that, and they're heavily into insulting people for using positive reinforcement.
Yeah, which I've seen on social media in the last few weeks, some very nasty comments geared towards positive reinforcement dog trainers. To one post that was so nasty, I had to scroll on because I'm thinking, are we really got to this level in this day and age where we are actually threatening people in the belief that harming an animal is the way to go? Again, I couldn't get my head around that. That's nasty.
Yeah, and we can all get into that. It goes both ways. You get lots of nasty, hateful comments from the positive reinforcement community against positive punishment trainers. But when you look at the roundtable talks that were going on, you wasn't seeing a good balance there. You wasn't seeing trainers from the positive side who are out there discouraging positive punishment or shock collars, You were seeing trainers who support their use and their choice of it, talking to people who actively do insult positive reinforcement, and people trying to do a more training in a more progressive way. They're actively discouraging that and laughing at that. So you haven't got a good balance there at all. There is no real intention of progressing dog training or standards. The talks, to my mind, are simply about, yeah, let's all just accept that they want to train this way.
I hear
And
you.
that's not something that I could ever do. It's
I hear you. And another way I look at it, coming to think of it when you say it that way, is there are no what I call grassroots trainers, those that are out there day in, day out, promoting positive reinforcement, very much into positive reinforcement. Um, Probably not celebrity status, but not that I think any dog trainer is a celebrity, regardless of who they are. But the people on that panel were the highest status, if you like, to those that are working on the shop floor, going out doing one-to-ones and booking people in, and coming home stressed after a bad consultation, etc., etc. They're not having that because they're in a different realm, running courses and become course providers, what have you. So I totally understand. It wasn't a very good balance. It wasn't a very good mix. Um, where we go, I have no idea. You got any thoughts on that, Patricia?
No, I think it's tricky, difficult. I wish people wouldn't argue so much. I think even if people disagree on a subject, there's a way to communicate about it. And I think the arguing is fueling the problem, really. Listening to each other is really important. Having a proper communication about the subject is really important. But I think too much ego gets in the way as well. But that's just a general comment of dog training in general. How much ego affects in a negative way dogs and dog training and dog handling. But that's a bigger subject. I don't know if that answers the question or not. I
No,
don't know. I don't know, Colin. I tend to stay out of it because I don't have the answers. For me, all I like to do is to just quietly get on with what I'm doing and try and do the best that I can do, and that's the only way that I know how to be.
I think eventually we will get there. It's just it takes change, especially social change, takes a lot of years. But the encouraging side of it is looking around at the amount of countries that are banning shock collars, and even prongs in some cases. That's not to say that these dogs are suddenly going to have good lives, because you can quite easily, it's one of the points that they make. You could quite easily use something else instead of a shock collar. We don't know. They're not suddenly going to become positive reinforcement trainers overnight, that's for sure. But I think it sends a message more to the general public of what is acceptable way to treat animals or not. So I think slowly, it takes so long. We've even got problems in the UK getting it finally across the line to ban the shock collars, because it all seems to have been put on hold. But that's what it will take in the end is legislation to stop it. But I mean, America is such a huge country compared to us in the UK. I don't know how much difference that will really make, because I can't see it coming in across America for a lot longer yet. I don't think they'll be ready to there's a lot more shock collar use there than there is in the UK. I don't see them. I see them on social media, but in reality, I see very, very, very few shock collars on dogs in the UK.
it, it's quite bad here. It's quite bad here. But like you say, when you've got 50 states in the US, it's huge. And most of the time when I'm hearing about shocks and prongs and punishment tends to come from the USA. We cannot, downbeat or downgrade the fact that here in the UK it is bad. It is bad. I do get to see dogs with prongs on their necks when I go into one-to-ones, people's homes, or prong collar on the table or hanging up where the coats hang up. I had one not too long ago walking to the class, a Doberman with an electric um, collar around its neck, so I had to have words with the owner and exchange the shock collar for a nice flat collar, and they didn't have a harness. And I felt sorry for the couple simply because they were told this is what they should use. They had no idea, no idea. So I don't, what's the word, beat everyone up verbally because I see their dogs on a prong or a shock, because I would want to know the history behind it. How did it come about? Yeah. Who gave you the advice? How did you get convinced? And you'd be surprised that the majority of the public out there with dogs, once they are spoken to and they understand the humane side of it, the dogs do have emotions, they do have feelings, they do change their minds. And I think it's about the emotions and the feelings that we need to promote far more, because people just look at dogs as dogs. They don't seem to think about, well, stuff, pinch me or I pinch you, we hurt. Pinch the dog, does the dog hurt? Damn right it does. So it, it is it's a difficult position that we're all in. Well, I say it's a difficult position that we positive reinforcement trainers are in, and any sensible dog owner out there looking for a sensible trainer are in a very horrible predicament. Hopefully, it does come good. Shay, go on, go ahead.
I was just going to say the problem is that if if people hire a dog trainer, that dog trainer's then in a position of power, in that people assume they know what they're talking about, and they take on a role of authority, just like going to see a doctor. Or you don't sit there arguing with your doctor very often. You take what they say as more likely to be factual, and they know more than you do. So and especially, if you're paying someone money, then you want them to know what they're talking about. You want them to be right. So psychologically, you're already accepting that person is right. You're willing them to be right because you're paying them your money, and so it's quite easy to be convinced by the things that people are saying. But the influence on a lot of these dog trainers that are starting up, and again, comes from the US, because they're seeing it all. They're seeing it all online now, whereas 30, 40 years ago, we were much more separated with traditions and fashions and what was going on in the world. And now it's, we're truly global, aren't we? We're looking at people's homes all around the world.
I think we've somehow stumbled on another topic there about trainers' power, regardless of what side of the fence you sit on. If we are getting paid and people are sitting there and taking us on our every word, that's a very powerful position to be in. I want to leave it there because I think that's another topic. I think we need to get you back and go a little bit deeper into this punishment side of training. But I want to say thank you, Shay, for taking your time to come and speak to people. And yeah, would you like to come back? Please say yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think we've got more to delve into. Do you reckon the same, Patricia?
Yeah, I think, Shay, what you were just saying about the position of power, it's kind of hit me there. It's really true. It's a good conversation to be having, actually. Makes me feel a bit uncomfortable as well, because we're going out, aren't we? We're doing things, and I'm like, crap, I hope what I'm doing is all right. But yeah, question ourselves. I do anyway. Question myself. And
it's something.
What's that expression?
University.
Sorry, Shay.
I was just saying it was something we touched on at university, something we had to look at.
Right.
There's so many things that are not actually animal training that you end up doing at university, and it's all stuff like that, and it's all valuable stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, love to have a conversation about that. I think that would be really helpful.
Okay. Shay, thank you once again
You're welcome.
for coming along to Dog Speak and talking to us about also different types of methods outside of the positive reinforcement world. And we will definitely have you back, myself and Patricia, to delve a little bit deeper into the punitive side of dog training. So to everyone, until the next time, it's a goodbye from all of us.